Welcome back to the Indian Wisdom Podcast. I'm Dr. Raj, and today you'll hear the tale of Viṣṇu's incarnation as a fish. Yes, a fishy tale indeed, but perhaps an insightful one, filled with little wisdom nuggets that you might be able to use in your life. So, a long time ago, Manu, the primordial man, he was, situated on the banks of the Ganges, performing ablutions. He was doing some ritual practice with the sacred water from the Ganges, the Ganga. And along comes a teeny tiny fish. And the fish, right, this sort of world, this oceanic abode where, the little fish are eaten by the larger fish, who are eaten by the larger fish still. Well, this oceanic world is not just for pescatarians. This is a metaphor for, the world in general. And so this teeny tiny fish, very politely and graciously asks Manu to protect him, right? One of the great dharmas of Viṣṇu is to protect, right? And so what does he do? Does he bother with this teeny tiny fish? I mean, there's so many teeny tiny fish in the sea, and what does he choose to do? Karmic theory is all about choices, the choices we make, particularly choices that affect other sentient beings. Because as the theory goes, the experience that we occasion other sentient beings creates a reverberation such that we are made to experience the same, whether fun or not so fun. Yes, part of the scaffolding of that theory is the notion that consciousness is one, its manifestations many. That there's one Purusha, there's one primordial conscious person, perhaps in the language of Sankhya philosophy, or one Atman, one self, one conscious cosmic self that is awareness itself, that we all tap into, that we all share, such that when we impact other vessels of awareness through this phenomenal realm of experience, the world, then the waves we make through sentience creates a splashback effect on the actor. And that is the karmic residue, which dictates what flows into their field, what they have to experience. Right. So this is a perhaps interesting footnote about karmic theory, but you'll see in many of these tales, actors have moral decisions or decisions which have moral consequences. Why is that? Well, they mirror life. This is life. What do you choose to do in any given moment? This doesn't mean you need to run out and help every single person in the world or even every single person who asks. But certainly never offering assistance to anyone, perhaps, is not the most ideal mode of being. Okay, so the teeny tiny fish asks Manu, please protect me. And Manu says, okay. He doesn't want to be eaten by the bigger fish, and Manu understands that. And he agrees to protect the little fish, and he carries this fish home in a fistful of water. Holy water, of course. It's the Ganges, the Ganga, the holy river. He cups his hands, some water. This is interesting because it's an analog, a parallel to the cupping of the hands for the ablution or the offering into the sacred Ganga. But, this is a different sort of offering, right? It's a karmic offering. Yeah, it's a karmic ritual. So he cups his hands carrying the water and a teeny tiny fish. And once he arrives home, he places the fish in a little jar and he tends to the fish. Maybe sprinkle a little fish food, maybe a little bit of a nice coral setting. I'll leave that to your imagination. But as time passes, what happens to the fish? He grows. I guess it was really good fish food that he bought from the local store in Varanasi, Kashi, the holy city. The fish grows, and from this little teeny bowl, he needs a bigger bowl. And so time passes, and what happens? The fish grows. And so from that bowl, he needs a larger bowl. And time passes. And what happens? The fish grows such that Manu needs a tank. So he gets a tank. And guess what? Time passes. Fish food is good. The fish grows. Too big for the tank. And then he gets a bigger tank. And again until the tank is about the size of his abode. And the fish grows. And then he thinks to himself, well, this fish is pretty much the size of my house. Pretty sure he doesn't really need protecting at this point. So let's just take him back to the sea. Okay. He was gratified. Manu was gratified because the fish had grown strong and large. Anyone who has a nurturing, either a status-oriented and or nurturing temperament, you will feel good about this because the fish has met his targets of growth, so to speak. Otherwise put, the fish has been so well nurtured that he's thriving. He's thriving. So Manu was very gratified. And, he every day he goes to the Ganges, to do his sacred rites, his rituals. And the fish kind of swims by, right? Now that he's in the Ganges of a fair size. What's interesting is that although he's back in the Ganges and his natural habitat is fairly large, he continues to grow. And the days pass and the fish continues to grow. And then he was so large that he could scarcely fit between the banks of the Ganges River. Now Manu had to ask because, he suspected there was something a little peculiar, interesting, intriguing about this fish. But hey, given that this fish could apparently speak, he had to ask about the nature of the fish. And so he said, "Great fish, certainly you are no ordinary creature. Clearly. Who are you? Who are you? And what's this all about? Why have you come to me? I mean, with such a potential, clearly there's some special force governing your destiny that you can attain this size, and yet you come to me for protection. What's going on here?" And the gig is up, and so the fish declares, "Manu, you are correct. No ordinary creature am I indeed." If you think that grammar sounds a little bit like Yoda, well, in all fairness, Yoda copies Sanskrit. No ordinary creature am I. This is, this is sort of more the syntax. Yoda syntax is similar to Sanskrit syntax. Coincidence? Given Lucas's temperament, I think not. But no ordinary creature am I, declares the fish. Matsya I am. I am Matsya. Viṣṇu himself. I am Lord Viṣṇu, who pervades the cosmos and protects the cosmos. I've incarnated. I've taken avatara as a fish. A fishy avatar indeed. Why? To fulfill my destiny on earth, my purpose on earth. I've come to fulfill in the form of a fish. Well, who knows? Mysterious are the ways of God, or the gods. So Manu bows before the Lord in the banks of the holy river, honored to be in his presence. And he praises Viṣṇu. And he says, "I am honored that you have come and that you've selected me to nurture you to maturity in this incarnation of yours. But please tell me, Lord Fish, Lord Matsya, why have you incarnated into this world in the form of a fish? What's up with that, monsieur? For everything there's a purpose." Manu, philosophy comes, yes. There's never a straight answer. If you don't like the scenic route, then stories in general are not for you. And Indian stories in particular are definitely not for you. And stay away from the Mahabharata at all costs. If you like the scenic route, have a look at the Mahabharata. For everything, there's a purpose, Manu. Every creature has its own skill, its nature, its niche, its dharma. It is only as a fish that I may fulfill my avataric purpose. The purpose of my divine descent into the world can only be fulfilled in the form of a fish, and my purpose is to protect humankind in particular. No other creature but a great fish can accomplish the task before me in this age. And you have well passed your test. As a reward for your kind protection, you will be protected 1,000-fold. Wonder and awe fills Manu as he replies, thus, Lord, what danger befalls me? And how will you protect me? Oh, I will protect you. Well, great. Oh, I thank you. On the one hand, the optimists or idealists, thank you, I have protection. The pessimists and the cynics, why do I need it? Protection from what? What's going to happen? Listen, Henny Penny, settle down. Okay. Yeah, Manu was simultaneously reassured and sort of also a little obviously concerned about what is to come. So, what does Manu say? There's a great flood coming to drown the earth. The entire earth and all its lands will be submerged by the coming flood. The beasts of the earth will perish in this great deluge. Only in my fish incarnation can I save creation from this great flood. Go forth, Manu, and build a great ark in which you will secure the finest seeds and animals of the earth in order to repopulate the earth once the waters subside. Bring yourself, bring your family. So this is an interesting question. As we deliberate colonizing Mars or not, as we deliberate saving the earth or not, as we deliberate the future of civilization, as we deliberate culture, the constituents of culture, what constitutes culture, what's essential, what's not. This is an interesting thought experiment. Water will overtake the earth, and you will have one vessel. It's like sending sort of a vessel to Mars type thing. You have one vessel whereby to repopulate the earth. So the question becomes, what is of value to you? What is of value to civilization? So certainly, the seeds and the animals, great. We have that. We have an analogy, an analog to that in the Hebrew Bible, in the story of Noah, of course, in the flood. What's interesting here is that in order to repopulate a society and culture, we don't just need seeds and animals and human beings. We need rishis, sages, 7 seers, along with the divine Vedic revelations, which they embody. So the idea that this is crucial for the repopulation of the earth and thriving of human existence, this is a fascinating idea, isn't it? With these you will rebuild and populate the world once the waters subside. I'll meet you at the mouth of the Ganges when the rains commence. With that, Matsya Swami Manu prostrated on the banks of the Ganga in wonder and awe at all that just transpired. And he was certain that he didn't accidentally have some interesting mushrooms that morning, so he knew this must be real. People get caught up with this notion as to whether mythological stories or Itihasa Purana, the epics or the Puranic tales are real in an historical sense, in sort of a materialistic sense. And really what this question bespeaks is an important question. But what it bespeaks is a privileging of certain kinds of knowledge. And what it bespeaks is sort of the fallacy of using empiricism as the metric of meaning and the metric of being. And irrespective of whether such tales as this are historically true, they are most certainly spiritually true. Because they hold in their loins the potential for spiritual progress and perhaps even perfection. Yes. So he was in wonder and awe at this sort of exchange with this fish. So he goes back and he commences the construction of a great ark, as instructed by Matsya, Viṣṇu's fish incarnation. It was of massive dimensions, strongly built and well insulated against the elements. The ark was filled with the finest seeds and animals of all creation, birds of the air and beasts of the land. Manu also gathered the seven seers, the Saptarshis, and told them, informed them of the impending danger. I'm sure they were like, yeah, we know. We're aware. We're plugged in. We already downloaded that information. All good. We were expecting you. Probably something like that. But anyways, he honors them well and beseeches them to join him, and they do. And the Vedic revelations, you know, also came with them because they were etched upon their hearts. They were by-hearted, to use an Indic English term, to by heart something. So learn it by heart. And by heart's a beautiful expression in English because it's not just in your mind, it's in your heart. Right? You're not just rattling it off as a parrot. Perhaps it's coming from a deeper space. It's embodied knowledge, embodied wisdom, right? So the Vedic revelations dwelled in the hearts of the seers. And so they would not be lost at the end of this age, the end of this age on earth. So no sooner had the seven seers entered the ark that the rains began to fall. At first they were mild and moderate. Then the rains grew heavy and hard. Lightning and thunder filled the heavens as torrents of rain pelted down upon them. They were all grateful to be in the ark. Take shelter for granted, do we not? Many of us listening to this podcast, no, not everyone. Many of us have secure dwellings in which to live, protecting us from the elements. And yeah, it's a rainy day. Let's turn on some Netflix and hang out, have some hot chocolate or what have you. Really, when you're stuck in that rain and that sleet and that hail and that snow and that fog, in that glaring sun, then you really appreciate the value of shelter. So they're very appreciative of being shielded from the elements by this ark built by Manu. As thunderstorms began in earnest, great Matsya, Viṣṇu's fish incarnation, appeared before them. He had grown even larger since, and it was now twice the size of Manu's ark. He instructed Manu to tie a rope around his horn and attach it to the ark, which Manu did. The waters continued to rain down destruction upon the earth, swallowing the rivers themselves, and valleys and hills and mountains. Matsya pulled the ark, navigating the turbulent waters with grace and ease as the storm raged on. He pulled the great vessel to the top of the Himalayas, which appeared the very, very highest peak of these majestic mountains, appeared as a teeny tiny island surrounded by raging waters. They weathered the storm there until the great storm had passed. All breathed a sigh of relief as the waters began to subside and the earth reappeared before them. Matsya advised the entourage that the storm had passed and they could now emerge. Looking out upon them, Viṣṇu assumed his divine form, his cosmic form, and addressed them thus: "For protecting a tiny fish, you've been protected from this great deluge, Manu, first of men. Go forth and repopulate the earth, for it has been saved by my grace. And of course, in this realm, I've been saved by yours. I've discharged my duty to protect creation through my divine fish through my divine fish incarnation. I will return again and again and again, wherever needed, in whatever form to best suit that purpose. I will return as dwarf, as lion, as man, to protect the world age after age once it is imperiled. I bless you to repopulate the earth and build a society founded on the divine Vedic revelations. And most importantly, Manu, never forget to protect the imperiled as you protected me when I was just a teeny tiny fish. The imperiled, like me, are divine in flesh and worthy of protection. All hail the great god Viṣṇu until he vanished out of sight. They then set out to do as he instructed and repopulate the earth. A fascinating tale indeed. There's so much in there. Who are you protecting? Do they need to be protected? Do they deserve to be protected? Are you doing a good job of protecting them? Is it your responsibility to protect them? Who are you not protecting? And should you be? Who on the global stage remains unprotected? And should they be? The power of protection is the power of sustenance in this realm. To be protected is to be saved, is to sally forth and live. And to suffer the absence of protection all too often is to suffer demise. Hopefully, this has been somewhat enjoyable, perhaps a bit instructive. Who knows? Time will tell. I'm Dr. Raj Balkaran, and you can study with me online at the Indian Wisdom School, indianwisdomschool.com. Feel free to reach out if you'd like a talk at some venue, etc., etc. And keep well as you continue to percolate and integrate these teachings. Namaste.